Let's jump right in because today in this explainer, we're unpacking something truly profound. We are taking a deep dive into a brilliant, highly poetic piece of analysis by Oluyomi Oladevid titled When Princes Lead, Nigeria Wins. Now, this isn't your standard dry political white paper, not at all. Instead, she uses these really powerful, contrasting proverbs to explore the actual soul of leadership and governance in Nigeria. It's just a fascinating look at how the inner character of the people in charge literally ripples out to affect every single citizen and ultimately the entire destiny of a country. When wolves lead, the sheep scatter in ignorance. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Right out of the gate, she establishes this stark pendulum swing between destructive and constructive rule. It's such a brilliant way to hook us into the raw reality of governance. Because think about it, when predators are in charge, the natural result isn't just harm, it's absolute chaos, it's confusion, and it's a literal scattering of the people. This really sets the stage for the whole framework she builds, showing us that leadership, it is never neutral. It fundamentally shifts the trajectory of millions of lives. It either builds up or it tears down. But before we go any deeper into her framework, we really need to understand who is guiding us through this analysis. The mind behind these words is Oluyomi Oladevid. She's a thinker who is completely dedicated to generating solutions and influencing policy. Her work spans technical insights, policy briefs, and these really deep, thoughtful contemplations. So she isn't just sitting on the sidelines offering critiques. She is actively, deeply invested in providing clarity and strategy for her nation. Knowing her background gives so much more weight to the contrast she's about to present to us. And to truly grasp her message, we have to look at her foundation. In her own words, she says, "I am a Nigerian and I love people. I am concerned about global development and transformation." She also points out that her faith is absolutely central to her worldview, describing how it practically drives her to seek out solutions. So her motivation isn't cynical, right? It stems from a very genuine love for her people and a deep, deep desire to see true transformation. That underlying empathy is exactly what makes her critique of poor leadership so sharp and her vision for good leadership so inspiring. Okay, moving into the first major section, the path of contrasts, plunder versus prosperity. Let's see how she builds this. She structures her whole analysis as a path of contrasts, and our first stop is the undeniable economic impact of leadership. She uses these rhythmic, almost poetic couplets to paint a picture of two entirely different realities that a nation can experience, depending entirely on who is at the helm. It's a strikingly clear way to look at macroeconomics through the lens of human character. Look at this contrast. When looters lead, the rich become poor. It is a somber, devastating reality. Because wealth destruction doesn't just hurt the vulnerable, it pulls the entire society downward into a state of continuous plunder. It creates an environment where, frankly, everybody loses. But then, conversely, when builders lead, the poor become rich. The tone completely shifts here. She offers this incredibly uplifting vision of prosperity, where constructive, generative leadership actually lifts people out of poverty. It's a very stark warning about what happens when resources are selfishly extracted, versus the incredible potential we see when resources are actually developed for the common good. Next up in the path of contrasts, exile versus joy. She definitely doesn't stop at economics. Governance isn't just about money, it's about the human heart. So let's look at the social and emotional toll that leadership takes on the citizens themselves. This is where her analysis gets incredibly personal for anyone who has ever had to live under a broken system. It is just fascinating how she captures the tragedy of the brain drain and forced migration here. When oppressors lead, people flee their homeland. It so perfectly captures the desperation of citizens who are forced away from everything they know simply to survive. It's a heartbreaking reality of modern governance failing its people. But she contrasts this with the magnetic draw of righteous leadership. When leaders lead, the exiles return with joy. True leadership creates an environment that is so safe, so full of promise, that it actually calls its wandering citizens back home. It rebuilds the nation by welcoming its people back with open arms. Keeping this rhythm going, she dives right into the psychology of a nation. When lies lead, people lose hope. When a population can't trust the basic words of their government, cynicism takes root and hope just dies. A nation simply cannot thrive on a foundation of deception. But on the flip side, when truth leads, people live by faith. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that a leader's relationship with the truth serves as the very foundation for the nation's collective psyche. Truth breeds trust, and trust is what allows a society to look forward to the future with actual confidence.
Now, here, she contrasts poor minds with royal hearts. And a poor mind isn't about finances. She means a poverty of spirit, right? A lack of vision that naturally results in a divided, fractured nation. When the leader's mindset is small and petty, the nation breaks apart. In contrast, a royal heart, which implies nobility, generosity, and a real sense of duty, that has the power to unite people in a singular, powerful purpose. She's showing us that the stability of the state is directly, unavoidably linked to the inner character of the one leading it.
All right, let's shift gears slightly. We've reached the section on vision versus ambition. We've looked at the contrasting outcomes of leadership. Now she takes us into the specific mechanics of how leaders actually operate. What is driving them behind closed doors? She boils this all down to a fundamental battle between two forces, vision and ambition. She defines the absolute danger of selfish ambition with this incredible metaphor. When ambition leads, eyes acquire blurry scales. I mean, really think about that for a second. When a leader is only driven by their own climb to the top, by their own power and their own ego, they actually become blind. The ambition creates these blurry scales that completely prevent them from seeing the true, desperate needs of the people they're supposed to be serving. Ambition, at the end of the day, serves only the self. But contrast that with her view on true vision. When vision leads, the blind can see. A truly visionary leader doesn't just see the future for themselves, they illuminate the path for everyone else. They take a society that might be stumbling around in the dark, and they provide the clarity and direction needed so that even the blind are empowered to move forward. Vision is expansive and inclusive, whereas ambition is narrow and isolating. As we pull all her concepts together, she lists the specific, tangible fruits of righteous rule. And think about these progressions carefully. When folly is replaced by wisdom, the result is peace. When the darkness is replaced by bright lights, people can live in their right minds, meaning there is true mental and social clarity. And when mere noise in the market is replaced by a true authoritative voice, the nation is finally set in order. Positive forces actively, deliberately drive out the chaos of poor governance. Which brings us to her climactic conclusion. She writes with 3 exclamation points. The time is now. There is a fierce, undeniable urgency in her words here, and she explicitly ties this call to action to strong institutions and SDG 16, that's the Sustainable Development Goal dedicated to peace, justice, and building effective, accountable institutions at all levels. She isn't just writing nice poetry, she is demanding immediate, structural change based on these timeless principles of leadership. So after exploring Oluyomi Oladevid's incredible contrasts between the looter and the builder, the oppressor and the shepherd, we are left with a choice. Her wisdom forces us to look at our own institutions and ask the most critical question of all. What kind of leader will guide the future? Because the answer to that question will determine whether the nation scatters or whether it wins. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.